Many pupils were practically sleeping after all of the school's professors and teachers were placed in the confinement room. That is until they saw Ceirin, who is presently having blood drawn from his face. Ceirin and Fan strolled through the bedrooms, printing the new regulations for each one. It also demonstrated to everyone that, despite his youth, Ceirin was deserving of belief. Because it was he who gave them the courage and fortitude to stand today. Rong Lele assigned the females to take the lunches and give them to everyone, while the lads began to pursue Yang Fan, Tang Jiayu, and Qiyu in the background. They simply want to do well at their new school, so following them would be pointless. They were given 3 meals a day, and they wouldn't be beaten. This made many students content and willing to follow the lead of Yang Fan, Tang Jiayu, and Qiyu. During the whole ordeal, Ceirin only killed a couple, and the rest were seriously injured. He sent students to look after them. In addition to Ceirin being a great doctor, those injuries weren't a problem. They could be easily fixed and sent back to the confinement room. Didn't they like keeping children in them? They would now get a taste of their own medicine. 3 days had gone by in a blink of an eye, and the school remained peaceful as if nothing had happened. Because it was not a formal school, no one could inspect it, which allowed Ceirin to be adaptable to changes. Although the pupils had done nothing for the last 3 days, they recognized that Ceirin had rescued them. Although they were scared, they still had a lot of gratitude for him. There are a total of 2078 students in the school. 1754 students wanted to stay, 304 students wanted to leave, and 20 have just been arrested. We've just been released from the confinement room. In these 3 days, Qiyu had figured out the thoughts of most people in the school. Apart from the children who are sent each year, there are very few children who can leave the school. Most of them were like Qiyu. For the school to collect more money, the teachers and instructors would tell the parents that their child was still unruly and would continue to charge 60,000 yuan a year. Only the newly arrived children believed their parents were unaware of what the teachers had done to them. On the contrary, almost everyone understood that their parents were aware of their situation. Here, you would be scolded, face corporal punishment, and even be beaten, but they didn't care, as long as the child they received, in the end, was obedient. This is the reason why parents send their children to school. Admittedly, some children may be addicted to the internet, or they may resist their parents. But as a parent, after discovering such shortcomings in your child, you decide not to work harder to teach them. Instead, you would send them away to strangers to discipline them. Is it even possible to teach children through violence? Can they be taught by parents who aren't even qualified or educated? Ceirin has never believed there is such a thing as an internet addiction. It was just a matter of usage and electricity. There are countless ways people could use this as an advantage. Ceirin took the materials handed in by Qiyu and looked through the decisions the children made. Most of the children were sent here because of internet addiction or gaming addiction. In the eyes of parents, everything except learning was probably an issue. It should not be touched or approached. Everyone has been very obedient to the arrangements. They get up, eat, and exercise. They've all gained back their spirits and energy as of now. Yang Fan also spoke. He and Tang Jiayu both worked hard according to the plan made by Ceirin. Everyone got up at 5 in the morning, had a meal at 6, and took an hour's rest after eating. After that, they could run or walk around for a couple of hours. Then they rested until noon, continued to eat, and the afternoon was almost the same. It was very loose. The former school hailed militarized management. In addition to doing manual work every day, the so-called exercise was only 4 hours a day, and only 1 meal was given a day, so many people didn't have the energy to escape. In these 3 days, everyone got used to it and wasn't the least bit uncomfortable. Moreover, every day Ceirin would use the radio to play some popular songs from the internet. These songs were enough to make the children feel happy. After all, they hadn't heard music in a long time. Well, I still have things to arrange for you. I have ordered a batch of computers. There are about 2,000 of them. It will be delivered this morning at 10 o'clock. Tell all the students that the computers will be located in the classroom on the east side, and that will be the place where they will work in the future. Xiao Qingrong didn't intend to raise these children for anything. Didn't they like playing on the computer? Then let them find their way. Now that the network was so developed, they could find their opportunity to make money through it. Computer? Work? Tang Jiayu froze, wondering what was going on. Thinking of the crafts room reminded him of the principals and instructors who were now locked in the confinement room. In the past 3 days, Qingrong had put out 50 million into the stock market, and the remaining money was used to maintain the expenses of the school, including computers. After being stared at for a while, Qingrong calmly explained. Yes, we have now imprisoned the principal and teachers. Is it possible that you still expect me to support you? After being ridiculed by Xiao Qingrong's sarcastic eyes, the four were instantly provoked, and then Rong Lele seemed to understand Xiao Qingrong's approach and hurriedly began to ask. Are those computers ours? The reason he was sent here in the first place was because of his internet addiction. It was strange to Rong Lele that the school would buy computers. Yes, computers. Weren't you sent in for internet addiction? Then use your ingenuity and wisdom to make money on the internet. This will be your #1 job in the school. Xiao Qingrong wasn't planning on treating these children like kids. When these children were sent here, it meant that they had been abandoned by their parents. They've lost their family and friends. The first thing he wanted to teach them was how the weak and strong operated in this society. In this society, money was the key, and without money, it was impossible to be strong. While the four of them excitedly left the room, 618 was as confused as ever. What if they use computers to contact the outside world and then flee or call the police? 618 asked this since it had been heard from other systems that humans are very cunning. Everyone was being obedient because they were in a closed environment. If this closed environment opens a gap, then they will do many things out of betrayal. Xiao Qingrong continued to watch his stocks on his computer and answered 618 indifferently. What about you? You're usually useless, but it shouldn't be a problem to monitor a couple of computers, right? Of course, he was going to use 618 to monitor those children, and when 618 heard it could be of use, it was heartfelt and beautiful. You can always rely on me to host. I will never let anyone escape. In their exaggerated response, Qingrong ignored it and continued making his money. He needed too much money. After Yang Fan and others returned, they told the other students about the situation and then arranged for some people to receive the computers. 2,000 computers were set up by Qingxing Shao near Qing'an County via the internet. They came over today for the installation, and at 10 o'clock, several large trucks arrived. After all, more than 2,000 computers were considered big business. Qingrong gave an 80% security deposit first and 20% on the following installation. In the end, the boss was very happy with the transaction. One computer, a table, and a chair. This package configuration costs around 5,000 yuan, and the overall setup qualifies as an internet cafe model. Xiao Qingrong just gave these things to Yang Fan and others. After all, Yang Fan, Tang Jiayu, and Qi Yu were all older. They had spent years of their youth at this school, and now that they had been entrusted with such difficult tasks, they naturally wanted to succeed. The owner who sent the computers saw Yang Fan and was not surprised. After talking to them, Yang Fan and others took him to the classroom on the east side. The students were currently on the playground exercising. Some of them listened to a song, and others discussed how they were going to make money online. I think I can be a host. I look pretty good. If I become a host, people might like it, right? I can also sing. A handsome boy was voicing out his thoughts. He was 18 years old and had been at the school for 2 years. He had been in contact with his parents in the early part of his stay, but after being away, they were gone, so he didn't know much about his parents, so he decided to not go home. Yeah, you do look so handsome, so someone might like it. I, however, can't do that, I can only play games. I was addicted to games before I was sent here by my family. If not, I can only practice contemporary. A somewhat fat boy nodded and gave himself an evaluation. He has been here for 3 years and has lost more than 200 pounds at the beginning and 150 more recently, but he still looked a little fat. There were a few people who wanted to go home. After listening to the discussions around them, they suddenly felt out of place. Although they said they wanted to go home, they didn't know in their hearts how it would go once they met their parents. The children all had their thoughts, but this wasn't a problem for Ceirin. He hired chefs, doctors, and other services. Everything they needed to fit them would be at the school. Of course, Ceirin wouldn't say that he didn't like the takeaway now, it was unpalatable. In 2 days, the computer was installed and connected to the internet. Ceirin also prepared an office space for himself. Everyone in the school knew about the installation of the computer. It was also exciting. Then they received the latest campus regulations and their first assignment. 1. Do not use computers to contact other people to escape. As long as you earn enough to cover your living expenses to go home, the school is willing to let any student leave. 2. Find the first network job that belongs to you through a computer. For a month, you can work in groups. 3. Work and rest can be transferred according to the nature of the work. This also applies to the computer room workers. The 3 regulations are very relaxing, so after seeing these 3 regulations, everyone felt that they could do it, and finally, 2 days after the computer was installed, they officially entered the computer room. The computer room is available in every classroom. The keys were handed to Yang Fan and others. After eating and exercising under the rules, all students entered the computer room once the door was opened. After seeing the computer, they all look like copies. According to the brand distributed by each of them, everyone found a place to sit down. After that, this is their computer, which is also considered a job. People only think about this when they have no pressure, but once you have something to do, you won't have such a messy idea. Everyone turned on their computer, and then, according to their habits, some people browse the web, download games, and do other things. 618 monitored everyone throughout the process, preventing some from alarming or escaping. It was afraid that its host would go to prison again. According to the setting of 618, as long as someone tries to ask the outside world for help, it will lock the computer, and then it will pry into their thoughts. However, what surprised 618 was that after recontacting the computer, everyone tacitly did not ask for help from the outside world and did nothing. Instead, they wanted to find a job. This surprised me. Host, why don't any of them want to contact the outside? 618 couldn't figure it out, and it didn't know what it wanted to see. Ceirin looked at all the students sitting in front of the computer through the camera and didn't mind explaining his dumb system. Because people are group animals, when a person does something that does not fit into the group, they are rejected. Chiyu has given me information before, and there are only more than 300 people who want to go home. I told them that they could pay a toll and go home, so they would not call the police because they knew that they could not return without money. What's more, even if they do go back, Ceirin didn't think they would be happy after returning. 618 didn't know much about human thoughts but understood the meaning of groups. It only felt more surprised by each of its hosts' elaborate practices. Then, host, don't you plan to leave here? Or are you just going to continue watching them? The host's future was to be a big hacker with a worldwide reputation. He was able to hold a country in the palm of his hand. How could he stay here and be the ringleader of a school? Isn't it strange? No, 618, you don't understand. Sometimes creating a genius is more enjoyable than being a genius yourself. Every year in China, how many people will be sent to such a school because of internet addiction, and how many days would they die in such a place? They could play games, and even if it's not professional, they could also practice something else. In short, it was within boundaries, and they could use it to feed themselves. And what about those who were geniuses with exceptional hacking abilities who were destroyed in such a school? What Xiao Qingrong wanted to do was bring together all the geniuses who would be sent to the school and then create another world. Internet addiction is sick. Is it bad for you? Haha, how could technology have progressed so far without inventors interested in the technology? Every hacker is an extremely valuable asset to a country. When 618 heard this, it felt speechless and couldn't comprehend how far its host's mind had gone. Okay, let's go and see the principal. I think he must be curious about me. After leaving his office, he brought Yang Fan and Chi Yu with him and went to the confinement room. It has been 7 days since Xiao Qingrong left here. For 7 days, these people were kept in a confinement room and couldn't come out. Every day, dry bread and a little bit of water was used to sustain their lives. When Xiao Qingrong walked in, the blood on the ground had been cleaned up. Yang Fan opened the door of the principal's confinement room, then went in with Chi Yu and pulled out the principal. People were unable to resist after only 7 days. The principal was the same. His body and face were dirty. When he saw Xiao Qingrong, his face turned into fear. Eventually, he was pressed to the ground by 2 people. The principal, Wan Su, who created Mengyu School, never thought that he would end up like this one day. If he was angry at first, then after being detained for 7 days, he became fearful. Every day, he kept dreaming about the children who died in this school. It is almost impossible to imagine how these children would treat him. Will they kill him? Thinking of the death of the instructor, Wan Su was very scared. I can give you money, please let me go, okay? I can give you a lot of money. His face was pressed to the ground, he begged for mercy, but he had forgotten how many students had asked the same question, but had they been spared? These people were unwilling to pay the yearly tuition fee. Xiao Qingrong went up to Wan Su with interest, squatted down, looked at the man who created such a tragic place, and sneered. Let you go? So who allowed those children to live here? Are they better off dead?